Hey, what's up, my people? John Middlekauff, new YouTube channel. What I need you to do, subscribe, like the video, leave a comment, share with your friends. Appreciate everyone that has. It's the podcast, 3 and Out. You can listen wherever you listen to podcasts. Apple, Spotify. We got you covered. Also, thevolume.com. We got merch right here. Flex Fit hat. Go to thevolume.com. Get yourself a 3 and Out hat. The Ravens. At halftime, not going to lie, I got old tweets exposed because I had a lot of money on the Ravens minus 9.5. And D'Amico was kicking their ass. I mean, Lamar had 50 yards passing. He was blitzing them like every other play. They had no clue where guys were coming from. And you're just sitting there thinking, is this going to happen again to the Ravens? Are they going to lose in their first round, in the second round, but as a home enormous favorite to a team that is not that talented and who is struggling to pass the ball? And then the answer was coming at half, no, they're not. Because Todd Monken, adjusted. They got Lamar on the edges. One thing they were doing in the first half that I could not understand, it felt like they kept trying to take big shots. It's like, guys, just throw some wheel routes and some out routes and some slant routes. Get some easy passes to get some momentum for Lamar. What did they do in the second round? They got him on the edges on rushes, and they got some, I would just say, high percentage completions. And what did Lamar look like? I don't know, the MVP of the league. One of the things going into that game, why I loved the Ravens minus 9.5, which was making me driving me nuts at halftime, was like the discrepancy of talent in this game is as wide as the Grand Canyon. Yet you're watching this game and you're going, fucking D'Amico's taking it to him. And then the second half, they settled down, and even Lamar said he started cussing people out at half, and they balled out, and they just took it to him, as they should have. Like, the talent discrepancy in that game was honestly nowhere near what we saw in the second game. Like, I watched the Packers, I go, I don't see that much of a talent gap. Like, all your offensive players are big time. I watched the Texans, like, besides CJ Stroud and Nico Collins, they're missing multiple first-rounders on their offensive line. Their defense has been decimated by injuries over the years, and it's like, how is this close? And ultimately it wasn't, because the Ravens strangled them, as they should have. And they ran the ball down their throat, and Lamar took off running the ball. And you get him in open spaces, it's off and running. But I do think you saw signs of, if you can just contain Lamar, like, part of what makes him unstoppable is when he can get these 15, 20-yard runs, it just snowballs on you. But when you can contain him as a runner, and you can blitz him and kind of throw him off the spot like they were in the first half, it just discombobulates everything. Now, once they got in the second half, he made the great throw to the tight end that mossed the little DB. It just kind of snowballed from there. And they scored 24 unanswered points in the second half, and they dominated the Texans, as they should have. And in a weird way, that's probably the worst half the the Ravens are going to play, over the 2 AFC games, right? Because people were asking me, like, do you think they're going to be, what do you think about next week? Did they show some signs? I actually think they get extra rest. They're at home, so they don't have to travel. And tomorrow, with the Chiefs and the Bills, like, that's going to be a bloodbath game more than likely. It's going to take a lot out of whoever that they end up having to play. Now, the difference is I don't want to say CJ looked like a rookie, but that's a tough environment for a guy making a second career playoff start, in freezing cold temperatures against an elite defense. I mean, Mike McDonald more than likely is going to become a head coach in the NFL this offseason. To me, him and D'Amico are the two best young defensive coordinators in the league, and he destroyed them. But next week is a little bit different animal, whether it's Patrick Mahomes, a guy that's won multiple Super Bowls and multiple MVPs, or Josh Allen, a guy that can just outplay any defense. But like the version we saw of the Ravens in the second half, to me, more likely we're going to see in this game next week. Right now, that doesn't mean they can't be beat, but I would expect them to play better start to finish next Sunday than we saw today. I mean, today they look like a team that had a week off, had rested the guys week 18, that started slow, that didn't have a great feel for the game. Thought Lamar looked a little rushed. And in the second half, they looked much more like the team we saw play all season, that is literally better than everybody they play. So they can be a bully. Like, one thing you see with the 49ers, like, their version of being the bully is kind of gone. Like, Chase Young is not that good of a player. So their defensive line is not that dominant. They're still really good, but they're nowhere near as good as I think we thought they were going to be. When you watch the Ravens and they're humming, physically, they are the toughest team in the NFL. I think they've proven that over the course of the season. They may not be the sexiest team because they don't have these crazy pass rushers left and right, but to me, they are the most physical team, top to bottom, especially on defense. And offensively, the way they want to play, like they will run the ball down your throat. Like in theory, Kyle will, but then he gets games like tonight, like, oh, I'm going to prove that I can throw. Like, Kyle, why are you trying to prove you can throw? Just run the ball. And when you have a great running game, that can, just demolish the opponent. Basically, like, I'm not a huge UFC guy, but I followed wrestling enough to know once I get you to the ground that I can force you to tap out. And that's kind of what the Ravens did in the second half. They forced them to tap out, ran the ball down their throat with their quarterback and their running backs. And then you can physically impose your will offensively and defensively. So listen, if I'm a Ravens fan, first half, and I was a Ravens backer, was a head scratcher. But the second half makes you feel good, and I think that's the team that you see moving forward. So Ravens get a very, very convincing win and have a lot of momentum going in the second half. And obviously, I'm sure you saw the viral videos of Harbaugh and the coaching staff's dancing. But that was big time because they needed it. It was getting tight. Those are two teams that had a lot of pressure. What'd I say? The most pressure coming into this week was on Kyle and Brock, and you felt it all game long. Somehow they pulled that game out of their ass and they won it. Harbaugh, they came out of the second half and just kicked ass and take names. And last but not least, I saw this report before some of the games that Mike McCarthy, think about this. Jason Garrett multiple times coached on the final year of his contract, which is unheard of in football. In college football, it never happens. If you get to the last year of the contract, you either fire the guy or you extend him because of recruiting. In the NFL, it's not as crazy because so many players on the last year of their contract, but it's relatively uncommon. I would say it's pretty uncommon for a coach to, play out his contract. If he gets to the final season, you usually get extended. Now, I don't blame Jerry Jones for not extending him, but it also tells you this notion that he's sticking with McCarthy. He's really sticking with McCarthy because he does not want to hire. He doesn't want to go on a coaching search, which is basically like he doesn't want to waste his time with Vrabel and Belichick and then have to get to know one of those guys once he hires them. It's just easier to go with the guy he knows and extend Dak Prescott. Like that's the easy route. And listen, it's not going to be a failure because they will continue to win. I would say until we see what Sirianni does, more than likely they'll probably win the division next year. But like we've said, like how do we have any faith that anything different is going to happen? And even Jerry's telling you, it's not like he believes in the guy. It's like, I'm not extending him. So Jerry has done this now 3 times to the last 2 coaches played on their last year of the contract. It's like, listen, I don't totally believe in you. Like, I don't really want to marry you, but I really don't want to go date other people. So let's just ride this out. That's what Jerry's doing. Instead of just like, I really believe in this guy, I think we can get over the hump. So Jerry can say whatever he wants. His actions are, and I say this all the time about football and life. I don't give a shit what you say, what you tweet, what you post on Facebook. I judge you on your actions. And Jerry's telling you like, yeah, this is kind of the easy route, but I don't think he's any different than really you guys think. I just don't really want to change. So we have no room to get mad if the same thing happens this year, happens again next year in the first or second round of the playoffs. Because Jerry told you that he kind of expected it to happen.